So I want you to go through this and try and identify these by their part of speech. So for number one, for he, if you think he is a pronoun or a noun or a verb or whatever you think it is, just write it down and do the same for each one. So it's VPN AAPC. And I used to say, to remember this, you can think very polite and nice aardvarks always prepare cookies. It worked for me to imagine these aardvarks just being so polite and, inviting their friends over for dinner and preparing cookies. And that worked for a while, but I think I got a better one because VPN is already something that you're familiar with in the 21st century. So virtual private networks always attract police cars. Wait, no they don't, but maybe your contrary reaction to that will help you remember it better or something. I don't care how you remember it, but this is a good order for parts of speech. So that's verbs, pronouns, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, and conjunctions. Okay. Let's go back to third grade and get the definitions you had then. Okay, so starting with verbs. Verbs are what words?
Actions.
Action words, right? And that's true. But let's find our action words, our verbs in this sentence. So what words in this sentence are verbs? What words are actions? Go ahead, tell me. Swimming is our first one. That's an action, right? Somebody's, in the water just swimming away. Okay, that's an action. What else? Good. Is, because verbs, as you learned at some point in public school, verbs are not only actions like jump and sing and dance, but they're also states of being like is and have and are, words like that. I'm going to give you a sentence that you can use to test out whether something is acting as a verb in a sentence. So first, you ask a question, you say, I or it or we blank, whatever you think the verb is, you insert it in there. And then you do the same thing, I, it, or we blank, to answer that question. So we have is here, and so you think that's a verb, you plug it in, and you got, so I is? No, you can't say that. It is? It is. Okay, it works. So only one of them has to work, but if it makes a little sentence, then it's going to be a verb. Okay, now swimming. You all said swimming first, because that's the one that's most clearly an action word, right? But let's try it. I swimming? It's swimming? We swimming? We swim? No, unless you're, a gangster or a rapper or a caveman, it doesn't work. That's because swimming is not a verb. And I know that at some point, your third or fourth grade teacher or something told you that it was a verb. And they told you just directly. You were probably tested on this and had to identify this as a verb. Now I'm telling you it's not a verb. It's whenever you put ing on the end of a verb, it's no longer a verb. This ing is called a gerund, and its whole job is turning verbs into nouns. Because you can't swimming, right? And if you just try to make, this works for it, but if you just try and make a sentence out of it, you take yourself and you try to imagine doing that thing and ask yourself questions about it. You know, like, what did I do? I swimminged. I love to swimming. I love to, you know, you need another word in there to make it work. You know, I love to go swimming. We're going to get rid of it. All right. Next, we'll do these as a pair because they're both nouns, right? This one is the only of the group, maybe prepositions included, but what you learned about these in 3rd grade is actually still pretty okay. So nouns are what, and what? Yeah. Persons, places, things, or ideas. So persons like, you know, kids, and places like school, and things like pencils, and ideas like joy. Okay? Basically anything that has a name or can have a name is a noun. And if it actually does have a name, then it's a proper noun, but I'm not going to make you distinguish those separately, as long as you can identify it as a noun. But I am going to ask you to distinguish between common nouns and pronouns, because that will become important later when we start doing writing. So pronouns, I mean, the prefix PRO, it means instead of. So like, do any of you know who the mayor of Orem is? So it doesn't matter. Mayor Brunst is the mayor. But if Mayor Brunst is sick or unable to fulfill his duty in some way, then one of the city council members acts in his place. And when they do, they're called the mayor pro tem. They're acting instead of the mayor. You know, in Rome, you had the consul, and then you had the proconsul who acted in place of the consul. Well, a pronoun does that. It acts in place of a noun. So instead of kids, you say something like them. Instead of school, you say it. Instead of pen, you say it. Instead of joy, you say it. And there's a finite list of these. You've got, you know, he, she, I, you, they, we. Okay, I'm not going to list them all, but words like that. Okay, so what you want to start with when you're looking for your nouns and pronouns is look at the verb, all the verbs, and ask yourself who or what is doing the verb, because only pronouns and nouns can do verbs, and you'll always have at least one pronoun or noun and at least one verb in a sentence, unless it's a command, in which case it's just an understood subject. But start with that. Who or what is doing the action of is? He, right? And you know it's in the list, you're familiar with it, so pronoun, right? Okay, then let's go through and just, with this one, there's not really a rule, just go through and find all of the persons, places, things, or ideas and just label them. What do you have? Persons, places, things, or ideas. I've frightened you with the unverbing of the swimming. Don't be shy. Just give me nouns. Well, we're doing each one individually. So, video. Okay. What else? Games. Okay. What else? Swimming. Okay, all right, so we'll leave that there for now. Those all seem like persons, places, things, or ideas. We go to the next step, and that will help us to unnoun anything that's not actually a noun. So, adjectives. 3rd grade, what are adjectives?
Something that describes something.
Right, they are description words, right? Okay, so it's a blue desk, it's a big desk, it's a small desk, it's a whatever. It's some word that tells you some extra modifying information about a noun. And that's what adjectives do. They describe nouns. Okay, but it can get a little tricky because nouns and adjectives will switch back and forth, and sometimes even verbs can become nouns and then they become adjectives again, and it can be hard to identify. So here's a test that I like to use to get them a little bit more precise. You ask yourself this question, and it has to be, you have to use the wording right on this, because if you switch out, instead of saying what kind, if you say how or it tells you something about, you'll get it wrong. So it's got to be this. What kind of noun or pronoun is it or are they? Okay? So, once you've got that, you're going to go through every noun and pronoun in the sentence, and you're going to ask, what kind? What kind, what kind, what kind? It's usually a good idea to start at the end of the sentence and then move back toward the beginning, and just keep asking this question. So, what kind of games are they? What kind of games is he good at? Video games, right? So that means that video is not a noun. It's an adjective because it's telling you what kind of games. And if you think about it, that's right. You know, if you imagine this scene playing out, there are no videos. He's not good at videos. There are no videos here. There are only games. Video tells you what kind of games, and that's it. Okay. And you want to keep going until all of the descriptions of this noun are exhausted. So are there any other words that tell you what kind of game it is, or what kind of games they are?
Sound games?
Good. Some. Some is an adjective. It's telling you what kind of games. And by the way, numbers are very often adjectives. You might not think of it, but there are 3 dogs there. What kind of dogs? 3 dogs. They're describing things. Likewise, there are also words called articles. There are only 3 of them, but they are always adjectives. I'm not going to ask you to remember these on quizzes, but you should keep in mind that they are adjectives. So, a, the, and un. And it might seem like these aren't really, they don't do anything. It's sort of just a grammatical way to, link consonants and vowels together, but they really give information, right? If I'm talking about this desk and I say, I love the desk, I'm talking about one desk among many. If I say, I love a desk, is it this one? Is it that one? You don't know. If I leave those off and I just say, I love desk, then it's this desk. Or maybe it's not even a desk. Maybe I'm talking about these sunglasses and they're named desk, and it's different. These things describe the noun, and so they're adjectives. All right, well, let's keep going with this. Any other words that tell you what kind of games? All right. What kind of swimming? We don't really have anything. Okay, now last one here, and this is a little bit tricky. What kind of he? What kind of person is he? Okay, so you're wondering whether to put great onto swimming or great onto he. Great is describing he in this case, but even if it were describing swimming, either way it would be an adjective. So most of the time when you have the word is or are, what follows it is going to be an adjective. Even if it's technically a past tense verb, if I were to say, He is talented. Talented is not acting as a verb here. It's not saying he talented the games. It's he is something. He is talented. He is happy. He is ready. Now, all of these words would be describing him, and so they would all be acting as adjectives. Okay? Adverbs. Okay, in third grade, most of the time, I don't know, I learned these, I think exclusively as ly words. My teacher said, you know, when there's an ly on the end of a word, it's probably going to be an adverb. But I don't like that because, I mean, we don't use them very often. Words like quickly and slowly are adverbs, but when was the last time you said that? You know, you're talking to your friend and they're going to arrive in 5 minutes or something, or you hope, and okay, come quickly. You probably wouldn't say come quickly. You'd say like, all right, come as soon as you can. The most common adverbs are words like soon, often, always, to, and they don't really fit into that ly thing. Well, what do? I'm not going to say describe because I don't want to get it mixed up with adjectives. They show how verbs work. Okay, so for this one, if you want to test it out, it's just one word here. I just like to ask how. How did it do its job? And they do this, the order becomes important here again. They do this for verbs, they do it for adjectives, and they do it for adverbs, which is kind of convenient because all of those have a piece built into the word adverb itself, right? They tell you about verbs, they tell you about adjectives, and they tell you about other adverbs. So I'll list that here. They tell you how verbs do their job. They tell you how adjectives do their job. And they tell you how other adverbs do their job. So let's go through, starting with verbs, then adjectives, and then the adverbs that we've identified in the process of that, and just keep asking how. So how is he? This would be like he truly is something. We don't have one there. Okay, so then we'll move on to our adjectives. How video is it? No, nothing. How some is it? This would be like if we had something like only some video games. That would be an adverb there. Only would be modifying some, but it's not there. Okay, so next, how great is it? Really great, right? So this is an adverb. Okay, no more adjectives, so we'd look at our adverb here. How really is it? Very, really great, or you could stack adverbs, and very will be a common one. The word very, by the way, will always be an adverb. If you ever see very or really or to, always adverbs. Just I mean, you can run it through the test, but you can just kind of remember and get those out of the way if you ever see them. Okay, we're almost done. Good. That's great. Prepositions. You probably learned this one with the squirrel and the tree. Yeah? Did anyone do the squirrel and the tree? No? They stopped doing that? Okay. So it's actually pretty good. It works. So you have a tree, right? Very nice tree. And you have a squirrel. A very nice squirrel. Wherever the squirrel is in relation to the tree, anything that you would use to describe the squirrel in the tree, that would be a preposition. These are words that show the position of two or more nouns. So the squirrel is blank the tree. What? The squirrel is by the tree. The squirrel is with the tree. The squirrel is in the tree. The squirrel is on the tree. Okay, so they show position, and you don't always have a squirrel and a tree when you're taking one of these, but you always have a pen and a desk. So I like to say the pen is or goes, either one, blank the desk or desks. And that will, if the word fits in there, then it's going to be a preposition. And the order works because if you've got all these other parts of speech out of the way, there aren't going to be that many words left. And so if you find one among the remaining words that fits in this sentence, then it'll be pretty accurate. So let's go through this and see. The pencil is blank the desk, or the pencil it goes blank the desk. Do any of these work? At works. Okay. The pencil is at the desk, or the pencil goes at the desk. They both work in that case, but only one of them needs to. Any others? The pencil is and the desk. The pencil goes and the desk. No, that doesn't work. Okay. So that's it. Which brings us to our last one. Conjunctions. You know, like conjoined twins, their bodies are connected by some appendage. They're joined at the hip or something. Well, that spot where they are linked together, you can think of that spot as a conjunction. The place of conjoining. Conjunctions are used to link words or clauses together. And there's an acronym that you probably learned to remember them. Do you remember what it is? Fanboys. And we'll still use this. It's still good. Fanboys. What are the fanboys? Excellent. For and nor, but, or, yet, so. Okay, so these words will become important later when we're using commas, but if you put them between a noun or between two nouns or between two verbs, they show that those two things have a relationship. Or if you put them between two sentences, they show that those two things have a relationship. Okay, once again, the order is important because most of the conjunctions, and we'll learn some other types of conjunctions too. These are just the coordinating conjunctions, but most of the conjunctions can also be prepositions depending on how they're used. So you have to be careful. Consider the word for. So you want to find your prepositions first, because if I say, I live for cheese, it's all I think about day and night. You would have gone through here and said, okay, live is a verb, and then I is the pronoun doing that verb, and cheese is a noun, yes, okay. And then what kind of cheese? Okay, no adjectives. How was I living? No adverbs, okay. Prepositions, okay, you'd try it out. The pen is for the cheese, or the pen is for the desk. The pen goes for the desk. Yeah, that works. Okay, that's a preposition. And you'd be right. That is a preposition here. So when you get to conjunctions, there's nothing left. You're already done. That's how you should go about this. So the word for is only a conjunction when it's like, I live for there is cheese to eat. You know, if you're like speaking in Shakespearean soliloquy and you use for to link sentences together, I am happy, for the weather is more beautiful than I have ever, something like that. We don't use it as a conjunction very often. It's very rare, so find your prepositions first. Okay, and kind of the same thing. Well, okay, yeah, that's it for conjunctions. Once all the rest of these are done, find fanboys, for and or but or yet so, and make sure that they're being used to link something together, and then you got it. Okay. Now, correct your own. Let's try it again, and let's see how much you've improved here. Write this sentence down and figure it out. Try not to look at your notes. I mean, they're there, but just make it a quiz for yourself so you can see how much you need to work on this to do well on the one that's actually graded next time. Okay. So let's try it out. Do you remember the order for parts of speech?
Verb.
Virtual private networks, pronoun, noun. Always attract police cars. So that was verb, pronoun, noun. Adjective. Adverb. Preposition. And conjunction. Okay, great. Well, let's go through here. My verbs first. What do I do to remember verbs? What's the sentence I asked for verbs? I, it, or we what? I, it, we blank, and then I, it, we blank. Okay, what works with that? Has. Okay. I has. It has. It has. Okay. Any others that work with that? All right. Okay, on to pronouns. Who or what does the having here? Boy, and that's a noun. It's not a pronoun. If it were a pronoun, it would be he. Okay. Do we have any other pronouns? Words that stand in for nouns? Okay, and again, for these ones, we just kind of scan through and find as many as we can. So, nouns, persons, places, things, or ideas. What do we got? Brain is a thing. Jar is a thing. What else? That's it? Okay. So then we move on to adjectives. For adjectives, what do we do? What do we ask?
It's what kind of noun or pronoun.
Right, great. So let's go through our nouns and figure that out. So what kind of jar? That jar, yes. The word that, and no one put this as a pronoun, but it could be a pronoun, right? If I said, I love that, well, the word that is, we don't know what thing it's replacing, but it's replacing a thing. This is a pronoun in this sentence. But in this case, the pronoun that is being used to describe jar. It's indicating that it's one specific jar, that one. And so, yes, it becomes an adjective. I'm mentioning that because later on when we write essays, it will become extremely important that you can, with 100% accuracy, distinguish when the word that or this is a pronoun and when it's an adjective and when it's subordinating conjunction, which we'll talk about later. But just keep that in mind. File that away. We'll come back to that. Okay, what kind of jar? Any other words that indicate what kind of jar? Okay, what kind of brain? Large brain. Any other words that tell you what kind of brain? A very brain. Wait, is it? It's not a very brain, is it? Because what is, and if you're confused with that, you think, well, it's describing. What's the difference between a very brain and a regular brain? It doesn't work, right? Are there any other words? We've got and the. What do we have? Tells you what kind of brain. It's only one brain. Okay. We're done with brain. What kind of boy? The boy. And again, those articles, un, and the, they're super common. It's very difficult to write a sentence without using, 1 or 5 of them. They're all over the place, and you can just remember those are always adjectives. Always, always, always. Okay. We're done with adjectives. Now we move on to adverbs. So find all of your verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs, and just keep asking the question, how? Okay? So our verb first. How has he? He really has? He actually has? No, nothing there. Okay, so we move on to our adjectives. How large is it? Very large. So that's an adverb. How that? Nothing. Again, that would be something like truly that or only that or something. It's not here. Okay. Let's move on to prepositions. The pencil and the desk. The pen is in the desk. That one works. Okay, and all of our words are taken, so there's no room left for and, nor, but, or, yet, so we're done.